it was a few different robberies: bank robbery, home invasion robbery, jewelry store robbery.
Put your hands on your head.
When I got arrested, I got convicted for one of them, and I got 20 years and sentenced for it.
That's just wild.
Carlos Vasquez from Convict to CEO doesn't just talk about transformation, he lived it.
Locked up, he found a way out. Not just from his cell, but from the mindset that put him there.
Now he's teaching others how to fight their own battles. No fluff, no excuses, real talk about trauma, resilience, and what it takes to turn your life around.
My transformation didn't happen alone. When you've been through a lot of stuff, past experiences, traumas, and you have a dream, in order to get to that dream, you have to heal from those past experiences and traumas. The only way to really do that is to get help.
Did you ever see it as a sign of weakness to ask for help?
Yeah, for most of my life, I didn't ask for help. Even when I was a kid and I ran away and I knew deep down inside I didn't want to be there and I was scared, I didn't ask for help.
Your life started to turn around in roughly 2013 after a meeting with a prison chaplain. What did the prison chaplain say to you?
So,
What were your biggest challenges and how did you overcome them?
So it's just always me versus me. I think that's my biggest battle. Like, besides that, I'm not really afraid to take on things.
Why does inclusion matter to you?
I think it...
Hey friends, I'm so excited to invite you to the Inclusion Matters podcast. This isn't just a podcast, it's a movement. A way for us to grow, spread our message, and make sure no one gets left behind. By subscribing, you're not just listening, you're part of something bigger. Together, we're changing the world. I promise to keep improving my communication every day, to bring amazing guests who will help us see life in new ways. And most of all, I promise to have fun. Thank you for believing in me and in us. Let's do this together.
Hey friends, it's Clara. Just a quick note, if you hear some silent parts in the podcast, it's because I'm using my AAC tablet to find the right words. It takes a little time. And to be honest, we don't have the funds right now for a fancy editor to cut everything perfectly. So, thanks for sticking with us and for listening.
Hey folks, hope you're doing well. Welcome back to the Inclusion Matters podcast, episode 2. We are your hosts, Aiden Boyer and Clara Woods. How are you doing, Clara? You ready? Feeling pumped? I'm feeling absolutely pumped. How are you feeling? Are you feeling pumped?
I'm pumped.
Let's do this. Let's do this. Today, we have the amazing Carlos Vasquez over here, and he's got quite a story to tell. Really, really excited. We're going to go nice and deep for you all. And we're going to be talking a lot about how his mission blends with our missions as individuals and artists with disabilities, how we can help each other out, intersectionality, things like that. There are a lot of great things to talk about. So I'm really, really excited. Let's get this started. Carlos, give us an elevator pitch of yourself. Who are you?
Thank you. I haven't done an elevator pitch in a long time, since business school, but I'm Carlos Vasquez. I'm the founder and CEO of How to Battle. How to Battle is a brand, and it's a podcast. It's an organization. We help companies like Google and Rare Earth Pacific Company, to name a couple. What we basically do is do leadership training. We do a lot of work with diversity, inclusion, and belonging. We do a lot of work with just more human-centered approaches. We also work with the youth, so foster youth, troubled youth, youth in underserved communities, and formerly incarcerated. And our thing is to connect everybody, people in corporate world, foster youth, people in prison. People can come together and do amazing things in the world. So that's one of my missions, is to create opportunities for everybody to do good and making an impact in this world.
Awesome. That sounds great. I'd love to learn more about that for sure. All right. Well, we should probably introduce ourselves first. I already forgot to do that, but you should introduce yourself. You have your whole thing right there. So.
Hi, my name is Claire Woods. I had a perinatal stroke. I'm 18 years old. I'm an artist, an entrepreneur, and a game changer.
Amazing.
Love it.
My name's Aiden. I'm 24. I am on the autism spectrum. I was diagnosed as a child, and I'm a professional touring musician. And I have had a lot of amazing experiences in my life, and they have all led me to be here. I'm just so honored. I think that the biggest reason why I'm doing as well as I am is because of the people in my life outside of my immediate family that have been there for me and who have showed up for me. And I'm just so honored that that through this podcast we can continue to do that. And I'm just so excited to meet some amazing new people. So That's me. That's who we are. We're pretty chill people. Awesome sauce. All right. So, obviously, there's going to be some deep stuff we're covering today, but you do have quite a story to tell. So, I'm not familiar at all with, like, you know, what it's like to be incarcerated, what it's the jail system, and you know, gang life and things like that. And so it's definitely something that I really, really want to learn about. This might seem like kind of a wild question to start with, but it's just because I don't know. Like, I don't know.
Bring it on.
But yeah. But yeah. In short, you probably get asked this all the time too. So, but it's definitely, I think, going to be important for me. What were your crimes? What happened?
Good question. Yeah, you know, it's funny because in the beginning you asked me to give my elevator pitch, and
Yeah.
that's who I am now. But I wasn't always that person.
Yeah.
You know, I was a troubled kid for many reasons, the trauma that I experienced and running away and all these different things that played a part in that, drugs and everything. But I went to prison for robbery. So it was a few different robberies: bank robbery, home invasion robbery, jewelry store robbery. So when I got arrested for multiple robberies. I got convicted for one of them, which was the home invasion robbery, and I got 20 years and sentenced for it.
Yeah, that's intense. Oh man. Well, thank you for getting that out of the way. Obviously,
It's
as
public record. So
Yeah.
it's like, yeah.
Yeah, you kind of have to be open about it, I guess, in a way.
And it's not like you know, at one time I was ashamed, but I had to look at myself, the former self, and I had to realize that I'm no longer that person. So it's okay to speak about that. Like, our past doesn't define who we are now.
Absolutely.
I made a mistake. I've hurt people, and I'm not trying to do that anymore. So I spend the rest of my life trying to actually do the opposite of that.
Amazing. All right, your turn.
One, since we just celebrated the new year, do you have any goals for 2025?
Thank you. Yeah, actually, I do. One of my specific goals is to get a copy of my latest book, Warrior in the Garden, 7 Rules for Men, into the hands of 6,200 young men and boys in California. So I've already started. I got 60 already off the 6,200. And 6,200 is because that's how many days I spent in prison.
Oh.
And I wrote this book specifically for those who I feel need it, that might potentially be on that road to go there themselves. So I'm hoping it helps them.
Well, if 6,200 minus 60 is 6,140, make that 6,139, because I will gladly take one as well.
Awesome. Thank you. Love that.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's so cool. How many books have you written?
3. The third one I just, I'm wrapping it up, going through some last revisions and illustrations and all that. So 3. Yeah, it's great. I just wrote this last one during the Christmas vacation break time.
Oh.
Yeah, so.
You banged it out.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I did. But it was well thought out before I wrote it. It was in my brain.
For sure, yeah.
And I planned it. So writing it is really not the hard part for me. It's like setting up to write it, right? So it's like anything, like you do something for so long, the work that you do really matters. It's not the actual day you have to go perform.
Yeah.
You know?
I feel you, like what you just said, it sounds so similar to my whole process with when I'm making music and when I'm releasing music, for sure. I have to have like it fully planned out, knowing exactly what I'm going to do. And then when I actually do it, you know, that's just only a small portion of it. For
Yeah,
sure.
exactly. And you make it look easy, because like people will say, man, this guy, like he's talented or he's a great musician, but they don't know you did so much work to get there.
Yeah, there's a lot of work that gets into it. And when it comes to singer-songwriter stuff, it was a lot of things that were self-taught as well.
Yeah.
So yeah. But yeah, it's fun. We get to channel out our stories and our visions into art and literature.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about. I love it. All 3 of us have that in common. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Speaking of people who express themselves, you express yourself pretty awesomely through your art. And you also have some pretty awesome burning questions. You should ask another one.
After 17 years, you were released from prison and had to adapt to a very different world. What were your biggest challenges and how did you overcome them?
Yeah, 17 years of prison. I've been out 3 years, 6 months. I'm still battling through stuff because it's a whole different world out here, you know, and not just with technology and all the innovations and everything, but just me trying to find my place in it. So I think my biggest struggle was just getting out of my own head. And, you know, when all the limiting beliefs and self-doubt settle in and say you can't do something because for so long you've been identified as somebody who was limited in where you can go in the world. So it's just always me versus me. I think that's my biggest battle. Like, besides that, I'm not really afraid to take on things, to try new things, to learn new things. It's really just me getting out of my own way and believing in myself. So I would say that's my biggest challenge in the beginning and even still now to this day, but I'm getting better at it.
Absolutely. You kind of have to be a go with the flow individual, especially I can only imagine as so much, you know, 17 years, that's to put that into perspective, that is like well over like
that's your age,
yeah,
right? I don't know.
Well, it's closer to her age, but I'm 24.
Oh, really?
But that's still like, you know, like minus 17 years is only a 7-year difference. That is wild. That is why I cannot imagine being incarcerated for 17 years. That's just wild.
I know, and it's funny because when I first got sentenced to 20 years in prison, I couldn't imagine. I was 19 years old when I got sentenced, so that was like more than I had been alive. So you can't really wrap your brain around it. So you just go in it, and you just have to be strong, and eventually you realize that time is only like really how you perceive it. You know, like a minute for me now, I treat a minute like most people would treat an hour. You know, so
I don't blame you. Can't say I blame you there.
So yeah, it's just how you look at it, man. But everybody has the ability to get through things in life that they feel they can't. And for me, that 20-year sentence walking in there was one of those things that had I not been forced there, I would have never thought I'd be able to do it.
Right.
So.
Yeah. You had no choice but to develop a sense of hope at that point, for sure. So now, as far as your prison sentence is concerned, I did take a look at your website, and it seemed like the very first part of it was very, very rough. You know, you were still kind of finding yourself in a lot of trouble in the first part. You said that your life started to turn around in roughly like 2013 after a meeting with a prison chaplain. What did the prison chaplain say to you how did that kind of process like?
Yeah, it's more so how he looked at me and how he treated me than what he said.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. That makes sense.
It really circles back to like the work I do now with, you know, helping, you know, companies become more human-centered, more transformative leaders, because I understand the power that an individual can have in somebody's life when they're at a really bad place in time. So the chaplain came into my life and he saw something in me before I did. He believed in me before I believed in myself. He challenged me. He convinced me that I had a purpose here on earth outside of this cell that I was in 24 hours a day in my past. And that belief and that feeling that I got from him, which was authentic, it drove me. So the words were really just, you know, I challenge you to figure out what your purpose is. And the Bible was my guide, and that set everything off for me. But it was me feeling and thinking about that man throughout those next 3 years in solitary that really kept me focused on that and not giving up.
Yeah. That's amazing. It's amazing to hear this because in so many ways I'm realizing we have much more in common than I realized, because, you know, obviously I can't attribute my story to yours because I didn't go to prison, but I know the impact that people can have, not just necessarily by things that they say, but them showing up for you and them seeing something in you before you see something in yourself. I feel that. I totally understand that because I've experienced that too, just in a very, very different way. So that's just amazing to hear because it further proves that we're more alike than different. I absolutely love to hear that. So thank you for sharing. All right, your turn.
Excuse me.
Too, quite a few tattoos. Skin art. When did you get your first tattoo? Do your tattoos tell a story?
Yeah. I got my first tattoo when I was 13. I had just ran away from home, and I got my first tattoo. And it was actually the name that I ended up embracing later, which was Red Rum, which means murder backwards. So it kind of paints that picture of where my mind was. And every tattoo tells a story on me in some way. It's a lot of stuff that I definitely don't live by anymore. But in some way, it's like a book, right? You start in chapter 1, and, you know, whoever the main character is, you know, they go on this journey, and by the end of the book, there's a resolution. And so through the journey, the chapters is like the tattoos on my skin. To represent each one, each step, and it's a complete transformation. But yeah, I think if I could just point one specific one, it's like, you know, this one here, you know, I have tattooed right here. It says, it's a tattoo of violence with a gun above it, right? So I got this when I was still a teenager. But then, like, you know, on this side, which is more recent, I would say right here, it's like God's plan. So this journey that I went on in life is like a broken person who believed in, lived by violence, to now a person who completely gives everything as God's plan for me, and the trust and the belief come from there. So it shows the book, like, you know, we're all a book in some way.
That's awesome. I've been thinking about getting a tattoo or two.
Yeah.
I probably wouldn't have that much, but I've been thinking about it. You know, I have a lot of friends who get tattoos. It reminds me, you know, I can't remember who exactly it was, but I had a friend who got like a world map tattooed on his back, and then he like put a bunch of dots onto like where he's been or where he's performed, and so I just thought that was really, really cool. Yeah, it's a similar thing. There is so much commonality there. I love that. I absolutely love that. Yeah. You might. We'll see what happens with the tattoo journey on my end, but you know. So you had you said you got your first tattoo when you were 13. In your teen years, as per your story, which I saw on your website, is when things started to officially start to fall apart for you. What could you talk a little bit more about what the peer pressure looked like, especially in your teen years? Because I asked this because in my experience, I was frequently taught about like the dangers of drugs in school and whatnot, and the dangers of peer pressure and all of that. But in my experience, then I went to college, and then people offered me drugs, and I was like, nah, I'm good. And they're like, respect. So I'm very, very curious. What did it look like for you?
Yeah, peer pressure. In peer pressure in a gang-infested neighborhood where, violence is kind of like the way one is respected. The drugs are normalized. If you don't use them, then you're like looked at as like less than.
Yeah.
It's just a corrupt, destructive, warped world. Peer pressure is like life and death, really, in a way. Like if, I remember being in a situation one time where I was in a car, and I was in there with the older guy who was well respected. So if you did anything to disrespect him, either he would do something to you or somebody else would. But like he was like, here, I want you to carry this gun, and he gave me the gun. It was like I didn't deep down inside, I was still scared. I didn't want to, but you can't say no to a person like that.
Right.
Like
right.
we could say no to our friends all day right now, and sometimes even that's hard.
Yeah.
Imagine a person that this person could literally kill you if
Yeah.
you say no. That's the
Yeah.
mindset. So it was like the peer pressure was like beyond pressure.
Yeah.
So you just went along with it, and you hoped that you got around the right people in that environment that wouldn't lead you even in a worse place. Because
Yeah.
even in that environment, there's certain rules and stuff that you have to live by.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was intense, man, to say the least.
Yeah. Life or death peer pressure.
Yeah.
For some reason that did not cross my mind. I appreciate you mentioning that. That's wild.
Yeah.
That is absolutely wild. I cannot fathom that whatsoever. But you made it through. I'm sure, we all have different definitions of peer pressure, but that's definitely one of the most intense definitions of that I've heard. So I really, really appreciate your insight there.
Yeah.
Your turn, Clara.
A, what do you think is the best way to avoid letting your situation or life events prevent you from pursuing your dreams?
Deep question. Well, I think it's all about getting help. I feel like when you've been through a lot of stuff, past experiences, traumas, adversity, whatever, you've been through things, and you have a dream, and in order to get to that dream, there's certain things you have to heal from those past experiences and traumas and things. So I think that the only way to really do that is to get help, and because you can't figure everything out on your own.
Yeah.
Like nothing is gonna there's always people behind the scenes that are the reason why people are successful in life. Right? Nobody does it alone. Like
Yeah,
this
absolutely.
podcast doesn't just happen alone.
Yeah.
My company doesn't happen alone. My transformation didn't happen alone. Like, all the things we do, Clara's artwork and your music doesn't happen alone. So we've in some point, we asked for help in some way to move the needle forward to get to the dream. So it's being open to that and being willing to accept it and ask for it.
Yeah.
I think that's the best way when you're coming from basically the bottom and trying to build your way up.
Did you ever see it as a sign of weakness to ask for help at one point or another before?
Yeah, absolutely. For
Yeah.
many, many years of my life, especially when I was young, especially when I went to prison, we're a place where you are afraid to ask for help because then somebody can potentially feel like that you owe them, and you don't want to owe anybody nothing in prison.
Yeah.
So for most of my life, I didn't ask for help. Even when I was a kid and I ran away and I knew deep down inside I didn't want to be there and I was scared, I didn't ask for help.
Yeah.
But once I made the decision to ask for help, everything changed in my life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we carry each other.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about. We all have to rely on each other to some degree, no matter what. Yeah.
Sure.
And asking for help is definitely something I still grapple with on my end, in the situations that I'm in for sure. And sometimes I still subconsciously see it as weak to ask for help. And that's definitely a battle that I'm trying to overcome for sure. But it is a great point. Everything changes once you get someone else involved. It's just like, when you're lonely, you go reach out to a friend and then boom, it's like things get so much better. At least that's what's happened in my case. So that's fantastic. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So my next question is, let's go a little bit before that. And you said it was your teen years when things started to fall apart, your teen years when you got your first tattoo at 13. Before that, it was also roughly that same time that you said on your website that your father had a departure. Was it a death? Did he just walk out? What did that look like, and how did that affect you?
Yeah, no, he just walked out. One day, my mom sat me and my sister down in the kitchen at the kitchen table, a regular day, and just told us straight up, like, your father's not coming back. And we didn't understand it, and we were crying, and she started crying, and that was it. There was no explanation beyond that. I think it was just because she was so broken and ashamed and didn't know what to do because she was so like relying on him to be the strong person in the family.
Yeah.
So then we just basically went on our way and like lived life, and it started to spiral out down really quick.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it changed everything in my life. My connection with my mother changed, and ultimately I ended up running away when I was 13. So yeah, just one person's actions can really change a whole world, really.
Yeah.
If you think about it.
Yeah. That's happened in my extended family before, where people have walked out of people's lives and without explanation. It's just I can't imagine at least doing that without explanation. Like there's got to be some degree of closure. You still don't have closure on that even now. Like,
well, now actually it's beautiful how it all turned out. But going back then, my understanding of it was that my father just walked out.
Yeah.
But as we've been out of prison and really getting to know my mother more, I know there was more to it than that. It's just things when you're a kid, you don't see it, or you're not even understanding what's happening in the household.
Yeah.
And I don't know how much, each of them contributed to that happening, but I could no longer just blame him as an individual. So much more went into that. And, which I still don't know. I just feel it. And because I've been, I forgave my father before I got out of prison, and I reached out to him, and I met him, and I know him, and I'm getting to know him more, and he's changed, man, just like I am.
Yeah.
So it's like a clean slate, and I'm trying to rebuild that with him. And I realize,
that's great. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I realize he's not, definitely not the man I thought he was. Like this horrible person. He's a good man, and so, but had I not been open to forgiving him in second chances, like the one I was given, right, I would have never known that. So it's important that you forgive people and give them another chance.
Yeah.
Right, because you never know who that person is now.
Yeah, things change for sure. Wow, that was really powerful. Thank you for sharing. I really, really appreciate that. It gives me hope for the people in my life that I've lost, or the people that have walked away, for sure. People change. That's just the nature of it. I've changed a lot. We've all changed in so many ways, and we'll keep changing.
Right.
Too. All right.
Yeah.
Your turn, Clara.
One of the biggest lessons you learned was resiliency. Why is the ability to adapt so important?
Yeah, ability to adapt is like one of my strengths, I think, because in a place like, I would say from when I ran away, I had to adapt into the new world that I went into, the gang life. Then when I went to prison, I had to adapt into that, and I adapted. I've been to 6 different prisons during my time, and I adapted to each one because each one is different.
Wow.
You have to adapt to so much. But when I got out, I'm like adapting to the world quickly. So it's so important because you're going to always go through some type of change in life. You're going to always find yourself somewhere else. And so you want to be able to adapt to that. But also, if you're not willing to adapt, then you're going to be afraid to explore new areas and places and things, right? You're going to be afraid, like if there's an amazing opportunity for you across the world, and you don't have the confidence to adapt, or you don't think you can, you might not take that trip. And maybe that trip changes your life. So, it's so important, especially with resiliency, because you're going to go through challenges. That's life. We know that. It's guaranteed something's going to happen. So in order to deal with that, you have to be able to adapt to the situation. So I spoken to somebody earlier about how like they had a family member in the hospital, and I remember how that was. And you still have to go on and live your life and go to work and do different stuff and adapt to that situation. And I think that's what makes us human. It's actually one of the things that we have is within us, our ability to adapt. Look at how much we've changed through history, right? So embrace it, man. It's like it's a good thing, really, if you use it the right way.
Yeah. Adaptation is hard. That's for sure. I I know for me, it's definitely difficult because for me, it literally directly stems from my autism, and you know, not being flexible with change was something I had to be manually, you know, taught through years of intensive therapy in my childhood.
Yeah.
So, and even today, I'm still struggling with it a lot. Obviously, nobody likes change. Obviously,
Yeah.
nobody likes to like actively try to adapt to scenarios if it's so different. But it's definitely something that obviously has to be done. It's another thing that you know, you have to just brave the seas. And one thing that can help you with that is other people. You know, it all goes hand in hand. It's amazing. Life is hard, and you gotta adapt, and you can get help with that from other people. You can get so much. It's amazing, man. It's just amazing to hear the stuff you're sharing, because it's just my mind is blown, but also just it's amazing. Once again, I reiterate to realize that we have so much more in common than I might have realized, that I might have given credit for. So that's amazing. I felt that way when I first met you too, Clara. You know, I always knew that I had a lot in common with you, but I always begin to realize it more and more. You know, the more I get to know people, the more I get to know that we're more alike than different. It's amazing. It directly pens into the disability advocacy mission as well.
Yeah.
It's so great. It's so great. We all just want to help each other out. We all just need to be there for each other, you know, because the world is definitely rough, especially these days. So yeah, definitely, very, very, very important stuff to tell. Thank you, Carlos. Hugely appreciate it, man. Whose turn was it? I already forgot. Was it my turn? I think it might have been mine. Okay, yeah, speaking of disability, it seems like a lot of people who grow up with like behavioral issues, whether it you know, it would be like what the behavioral issues looked like in your case, but also for people with neurological conditions like ADHD, BPD. A lot of people, you know, who have neurological conditions, many of whom I would assume have undiagnosed autism as well, can end up in prison for various reasons, you know, that many of which can, you know, stem from, you know, the impulsivity of poor decision making and recreational drug use, etc. So you work with all sorts of people, you work with youth. How do you approach your mission with people experiencing these kinds of issues, like such as people with ADHD or people with special needs? How do you share your story with people who are experiencing life through that lens?
Yeah, I work with so many kids that I just went to actually just went to this facility where they've coined it like a place for kids who are struggling with like mental health issues. So I don't even, it's probably even in the title somewhere, but you know, I went in there and I walked in there to these different dorms that housed children in jail, you know, and go in there and it's I don't see them like that, you know. It's like almost like you put this label on them in a way that it's like now you're diminishing what they can become.
Of course,
you know what I mean?
Course.
So,
absolutely.
and I'm sure you guys understand that, but you are
yeah.
like the exception that took this thing that people, this label or something or this diagnosis, and you didn't let it stop you from pursuing your dreams.
Yeah.
So I see that in them.
Yeah.
And I try to let them know that it doesn't matter what you've been diagnosed with, what you're in here for, you know, what people have told you, how they've looked at you. And I get that. I've been there. That shouldn't ever stop you from pursuing your dreams. It's possible.
Yeah.
And here's my story and how I did it and why I know it's possible. And so just try to empower them and inspire them and give them hope, right? Because I'm not a doctor, I'm not a psychologist, I don't have the credentials, but I have something more powerful than that. Just like each and every single one of you, just like you two, right? We have we've been there, we know it. So there's nothing more powerful than that, right?
Yeah.
And even when I was in there, the staff was saying the same thing, like we bring psychologists in here from UCLA, USC, they come in here and they tell them why they're thinking the way they are and all this and that. They just need hope, right? They'll figure that out, but like that age, you just need somebody that believes in you and that they could say, if he or she could do it, I can. And let that person be a role model for me to follow until I figure it all out. You know, eventually when you're ready to ask for help.
Absolutely.
So that's what I do, man. And I speak them in their language. I speak to them from the heart. And
Yeah.
it doesn't matter how many words you know and how educated you are. If you don't know how to speak the language from the heart,
Yeah.
you're not going to reach those people.
Yeah. Yeah. The heart is definitely the most powerful part. Yeah, no, for sure. You absolutely want to see past all those labels. Definitely. It's the story that matters first and foremost. And I'm sure you definitely have that profound impact on people with you have on me, that's for sure already.
Thank you.
So it's really, really wonderful to hear that. We're all going through something. It might be different. And so at the end of the day, the heart is where it matters the most, you know. We're more alike than different. I always try and reassure myself that with my music. Like, sometimes I feel like, my music can't relate to people, but it still reaches people that don't directly relate to the lyrics because it comes from the heart. So yeah, no, it's amazing. I keep discovering all these new things we have in common. It's so awesome. I love it. All right, your turn. What you got? A lot of great questions.
Definitely good questions.
Yeah.
Great questions.
Thank you. I was worried about the first question. Be like, hey, tell me what crimes you committed.
Yeah.
I was a little worried about that one at first. It's just, yeah.
Luckily, I'm just like an open book.
Yeah.
You know?
You're good. You're good, man.
For what was it like to live on the streets? Who held the most influence over your decisions at that time?
Yeah, living in the streets. It's it's very difficult, and that's why like I empathize so much with homeless people, and I see them all the time where I live, and you know I just feel like a real deep compassion because I know what it's like to not like feel like you have a place to call home, you know, to like that security that comes with that, or you know, even just, you know, people often, they don't think that people that are homeless, some people don't think that people are homeless understand how they look at them, but you know, that feeling too.
Yeah.
Like it's not,
Sure.
and so it's like for me, it was very difficult because I was so young, and I remember sleeping in a car. It was an abandoned car in the back of an apartment complex within that neighborhood, and I just remember, you know, those nights when it was just so cold and couldn't sleep because, you know, I was afraid that, you know, somebody's going to come and kill me or rob me or something, and so I would stay up a lot and think, and you know, that's not good when you're young and you don't have anybody to help you. And so, but what comes with being homeless is it does something to your soul. It's like something deeper there than besides just the fact you don't have anything. It creates a part of you that like I think for me it's still there. I don't know about everybody, but a lot of people I've met that have been homeless understand it. Is it makes you uncomfortable with ever accepting a place of home eventually.
Yeah.
You know, like I have a home and I let other people come over and stay there. Like I don't even really care about it.
Yeah.
Like I don't feel like attached to it.
Yeah.
I don't feel like it's mine.
Yeah.
I'm like, you know, and I have all these amazing things, but I'm like, I can't get too comfortable with it because I know that, you know, I had that too once and lost it. So it's like that past trauma. But, and then a person that came into my life around that time was my best friend, Chris, and he was 3 years older than me, and he's my mentor, and he taught me how to survive in that world, and he became like a big brother, and he truly authentically loved me and cared for me. And then he died, you know, shortly after a couple years.
Was this the Russian roulette?
Yeah. So it was Chris, and he killed himself playing a game of Russian roulette in front of me, as close as you and I are, and it's like another thing that doesn't go away, right?
Yeah, for sure.
But I can't let it break me. I just have to let it be the fuel that pushes my passions forward.
Yeah.
Because I know that that's what he would have wanted.
Yeah.
And so I live really for both of us now, and I, you know, wear this ring I have on me every day that he had on his finger when he died that day, the only possession he ever left that's around. So I take him with me whenever I do the things that I do. So I think we have to live for those people who came into our life and were good to us and that aren't longer around are the ones that will go. We have to live a life and take them with us, whether it's in spirit, whether it's something they taught us, something they wanted for us.
Yeah.
That's how we're able to deal with that loss, I feel. For me, it works.
Yeah. Yeah. So even when you had run away and even when you were homeless, you still had the help. Yeah.
Yeah.
Obviously a tragic turn of events when that help was no longer accessible. That's just wild. That is wild. I mean, I read it, but then hearing you actually like explain it hits different for sure. Yeah. I don't want to say I'm sorry that happened to you because obviously, you know, I don't want to. You probably don't need the pity, but you know what I mean. I had all the well wishes in the world, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's wild. That's absolutely wild to me. I have another question about your experience with homelessness. You said you grew up in a like until you were 12 in a nice neighborhood, stable neighborhood, and it was good. But you ran away from home. Did you ever go back home in your teenage years at all?
No, after I left, I never went back.
You never went back?
I never went back. I wanted to, but I never did.
Yeah, because the peer pressure.
Yeah, part of it, and I think a lot of it too was just like the fear of going back and staying there, and not leaving again. Like once it's like almost like you take a leap, you don't want to backstep. You just want to go forward. You want to keep going, no matter where it's at. And at that age, I just wanted to keep going in a different direction from there. So I wanted to get away further, and just so happens it ended up in prison.
Yeah.
Which is really far mentally, psychologically. It's farther to be in prison, than it would be to be across the world because of the barriers there.
Right. Yeah.
So I ended up there, and the more time you do in prison, the more distance you become from the world.
Yeah.
You've forgotten your, even people that love you stop thinking about you or stop sending you a card, or they forget your birthday, or forget you matter. Your existence is like mean nothing. And then you're treated by correctional guards most of the time, like dehumanized ways. They treat you like an animal. So the only sense of like humanity that you feel is from the other prisoners, the other inmates, which end up becoming like your brothers.
Yeah.
And just so I'm blessed with the opportunity to have many of them still in my life.
Yeah.
So when we get together and do like vision boards, like talking about we want these things in life, like to us it's like we've already fulfilled our vision. These are just extra things that really it's really the time we spend together, deeper than the vision board.
Yeah.
It's the time that we come together as free men is the powerful thing.
You found a sense of community even amongst other prisoners.
Yeah, from all walks of life, completely different backgrounds, and you learn something about human beings in a place like that.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what you look like, where you come from, what gang you're from, tattoos and all that. At the core of it all is when people are in a bad place, they come together for survival.
Yeah.
And that's not just physical, but it's mental.
Yeah.
Emotional. And it's still hard because you're like, everybody's hardened.
Yeah.
And so when you get out and you feel like the love from like a woman or the love from like somebody who's not a hardened man, it's hard to embrace that because it's uncomfortable and you're not used to it. So we get together, we have these discussions, and it makes you feel like you're not alone.
Yeah. That's amazing. That's amazing. I think about that if I ended up in prison for any reason, would I be able to still find a sense of community with other prisoners? Because I would probably not for a very long time, It's hard for me to find a sense of community right off the bat, I'm sure it was intimidating. And also, you said you were also in solitary confinement for a lot of your prison experience too. That must have been because the only sense especially if the only sense of community that was accessible to you in prison was through the other prisoners.
Right.
Getting that ripped away in solitary confinement. My goodness, that's wild. What did that look like in terms of like timeline and
Yeah.
were you like forgive me if this example is like nowhere near what you experienced, but like were you like you were just starting to feel a community with these other prisoners, and you get put in solitary confinement for like, I don't know, like a year, and then you go out and you see some of the same people, and then it's just the relationship's just not the same.
It's a good question.
Yeah,
man.
what does it look like?
This is a great question.
Yeah.
Questions that I've never been asked, but that really,
I'm glad. I'm so glad.
that make me think that
Yeah.
I love that.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I was in and out of the solitary for most of my 10 years in the beginning stage, but just like doing like a couple months here and there for getting in trouble. But I did 3 years in solitary confinement straight, and that's what really changed my life. And when I went into solitary confinement, I was still the old me, the violent me.
Right.
And when I got out 3 years later, I was the person I am now. So just like imagine the relationships you built with this old persona, this old identity.
Yeah.
You get out and you're like, I'm no longer that person. I'm somebody else. And so in a place like prison, when you're doing something that's not of the norm, and violence and all that is the norm, when you go against that, it's automatically met with resistance. So then I got stabbed twice because of my change.
Right.
But when I survived that, and I continued on my path to be the man I am today, the same thing, it like empowered those men who once I was connected to then see me for who I was now and feel like, well, you know what, this is how we should all be.
Yeah.
And so then they were the first ones to come into my groups. And so it's a powerful thing when you transform your life and you are so committed to it that you would be willing to die for it.
Yeah.
Because you're going to inspire others to go on that journey with you because you're so passionate. So I had to rebuild the relationships with those old guys who remember me from that into the new person I was, teach them, help them grow and develop and evolve, and then see their growth because I saw something in them before they could, just like the chaplain did in me. I knew it was there because I know their heart, right? Because even in the criminal world, you could see somebody's heart. So like you mentioned, if you went to prison and came to the prison yard where I was at, you know, the new me would mentor you and help you and make sure that you were okay and that you survived. And I would teach you the things you needed to learn to survive there and go home. Whereas, because that's my heart, regardless of how tough I am on the yard, right? But then there's some people who have a black heart who will bring you in and like manipulate you and use you and do all the things like you see in the movies, because at their core, there's something deeper there. And not to say they can't be redeemed, but I just saw those individuals that had those good hearts, and I just in some way needed to help them. And so I did it through the way anybody does it that wants to really be effective in it, is you lead by example.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you're sure are good at that. That's amazing. Did the chaplain come during solitary confinement? Obviously you're in solitary confinement, so you have very, very limited interactions with people, but like how often did you have interactions with people?
Yeah, I had really 3 interactions with people in the 3 years I was there.
Yeah.
One was when I first went back to solitary confinement with a gentleman named Brother Malcolm. And Brother Malcolm was about 10 cells down the tier, and never saw him, but we just communicated through our fishing line that we put together, and we used to send under the door.
Right.
And we just communicated through little notes. And I remember he told me that I probably never get out of there in a sense. And so he was the one encounter I had.
Yeah.
And then the second one was the chaplain, who came to me when I got to the point where I was going to end my life. And I only saw the chaplain one time, never saw him again ever after that day.
Yeah.
And I don't know where he is, but that one encounter. And then the third was with the correctional guard that used to bring me books. You know, once he saw I changed my life, and he saw me one night reading my Bible, and we started to talk. And he was the first person, like besides the chaplain, to stop by my cell and talk to me, really care. And he was like, "Man, I got these books. You want to read them?" Because he was a big reader, and you can't have like technology back there. You have to So he read a lot, and he would share his books with me, and then all the way until I got out of solitary. So this was my 3 encounters
Yeah.
that significantly changed my life.
Yeah. Wow. Profound stuff right there, man. I'm still, wow. Thank you for sharing. Thank you so much for sharing. I really, really value this, man. All right. Any other deep questions you got, Clara? Maybe something lighter, actually.
Right?
We already went through the nitty gritty.
Yeah. We could go nitty gritty all day.
Yeah, yeah.
But
Yeah.
definitely some light moments though in prison for sure. Not all nitty gritty. I tell people like there's some beautiful moments in prison.
Yeah,
that
no,
often,
for sure. You gotta use the humor and the lightheartedness to get through it in a lot of ways. Yeah, for sure. For sure. I think we actually went through all of them. Yeah,
There you go.
We did them all.
Good.
Yeah, sorry. Oops. Catastrophic. And I'm sure there's probably like so much more that can come up. There is. Sorry about that. There we go. So now I'm going to ask one final question. Yes. So now I'm going to ask one final question, and this is on behalf of both of us, and the name of our lovely podcast we have here, our lovely, chaotic, all over the place podcast. Why does inclusion matter to you?
Because everybody, deserves a fair shot. Mm-hmm. Everybody deserves a fair chance. Mm-hmm. And I think it's just it requires that we look at people beyond the exterior, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
And that's what I'm all about. Like, that's what I live and breathe for. Because if I expected people just to give me opportunities because of the way I looked, it's be like, where would I, you know what I mean? Like,
right.
So it's so much deeper than that. And I see the real value of people beneath whatever we look like out here. I see that, and it's a large part is because of my prison experience, because you're in an environment where everybody wears the same thing, right? And so everybody in a way looks the same way, walks the same way, is treated the same way by the authority figures, eats the same thing. So you are forced to look at the person beneath that on a deeper level. I'm talking about people that look so many different ways in prison. It's a very like a mixture of everything, cultures and all kind of stuff.
Yeah.
One of my best friends is Cambodian, and never met a Cambodian in my life till I went to prison. And like, I know so much about him and his culture and just who he is. And so it's so important because, like I said, there's some amazing people in the world who sometimes are limited, because of the way they look or where they come from or what their disability is, whatever. And it's just like, it makes no sense to not give everybody a fair shot. And so it's very important for me because I was one of those people who didn't get that.
Yeah.
And now that I'm in a position where I feel I'm so blessed and gifted to have what I have, I'm trying to do better, and I think everybody needs to.
Yeah. I think, and so I'm a youth speaker myself. I work with a lot of youth and do some speaking, and I talk about, my lived experience as well. And, as I said earlier at the beginning of the podcast, one of my big, messages was, the people in my life outside of my immediate family who have seen me for who I am and have given me the chance have been the biggest motivator for my success. and I'm sure you can attest to that in a lot of ways. You say you asked for help from other people and you got it, and it absolutely transformed your life. Another message that I say is that your world really begins to open up when you begin to realize the depth that people are. Like someone might just look at you as, oh, you're kind of some dude with a bunch of tattoos. Mm-hmm. Maybe perhaps you committed a crime, and then you mentioned that you committed a crime, and they're like, oh yeah, it's the criminal guy that I met, mm-hmm. you know, and then people associate you with that one thing, right. And people associate, you know, obviously this is not at all the same, but since, you know, I was on American Idol a couple years ago, people see me and they're like, oh, it's the American Idol guy, and I'm like, and obviously I take pride in it because I had a lovely experience on that show, but I'm like, yeah, I'm also more than that, you know, right. I'm a lot more than that, you know, like Clara, like people, do you ever feel like some people might just see you as the art girl that doesn't speak? Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's only that. There's so much more than that. There is so much more than that. You know, Clara, you're a goofy, fun-loving, awesome friend, vibrant personality with so much depth and so much to offer. You're sensitive. You are caring. You're considerate. You know, it's all. There's so much more to people, and so that's amazing. And I definitely feel like I got educated big time today. It was an absolute pleasure to meet you.
You too.
This is a real testament to why inclusion matters, folks. Stay tuned for episode 3. Thank you so much for watching. We love you. Cheers.